Hello and welcome to the Community Safety and Security series here on the Serenity Resource Connector. Whether you're joining us live or you're watching the replay, it is a pleasure to have you here. If this is your first time tuning in, a warm welcome to you. I am Winsome Sharia Witter, your host for this program. And if you have not yet subscribed, I invite you to do so right now. Set the notification bell, share so that others can be aware of what it is that we do here on the Serenity Resource Connector. We go live each Thursday at 8 p.m., looking at different areas supporting our different government entities in strengthening their public education. Thank you again for tuning in. We have quite a bit lined up for this episode, looking at excerpts from the new Road Traffic Act. And of course, I know you all are aware that it's a long list. So what we've done is to identify some that there are some misinformation on the social media platforms, and we want to make sure that we are clearly guided as to how we're to operate on the roads, and who best to share that than the experts themselves. And so I have with me in studio none other than Inspector Robbin Williams, Acting Administrative Officer at the Highway and Safety Patrol Division there at the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch. A whole mouthful. Welcome to the Serenity Resource Connector space, Inspector Williams.
Thank you for having me. And
A
I must
pleasure.
say,
Yes.
thanks for hosting this session, and to all the viewers out there and my colleagues, pleasant good evening.
All right. Awesome. And let me thank ACP Gary McKenzie, the Acting Commissioner of Police with responsibility for the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, for releasing you to us to share with us this evening. Yes, and I must thank the Area 3 in general, more so DSP Owen Brown, for always supporting the program in terms of ensuring that we have the different experts in the space. I must share with you that we had something totally different planned for this. And when I saw what was happening, I reached out and gave him some last minute work. So thank you so much, DSP Owen Brown, for making this happen. All right, awesome. Let's get right into it. So we're gonna start by getting a better understanding as to what it is that takes place, a brief overview of what takes place at the P-STEP.
Okay, so the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force had its genesis on August 29, 2018, and functions as the flagship formation with its mandate of strategic objectives, which are to improve public safety, reduce response time to demands for police service, reduce crime and disorder, and to improve public trust and confidence in the police. And of course, we go by the acronym PSTEP. And of course, PSTEP is responsible for planning, analyzing, inspecting, and coordinating all of the JCF's traffic service programs. And of course, as you have mentioned before, we are led by our astute Assistant Commissioner of Police, Gary McKenzie.
All right. Awesome. That's quite a bit of work. So I can imagine you have your hands fully along with the team members. Right. All right. So just to remind the viewers, those who are just joining us, that we are going to be focusing on some specific areas of the Act. We'll try to get through as quickly as possible, giving you as much information as possible that you are properly guided. And we'll seek to allow time for some live question and answer at the end. So do note your questions. And if there are others that come in after and we have gone through a particular area, help me out in the comments by letting them know that we have covered that area so we can keep flowing. All right, Inspector Williams, let's get started on the new Road Traffic Act. Some of them not really new.
True.
It's just that they're now being enforced, right? And I think maybe it's the dollar value that makes it right. But we won't get into that because that area, we must add, is We have the lawmakers that does the acts and the regulations, and what the police does, the JCF in general, is enforce, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So let's help the viewers to have a better understanding so we can make the police job easier when you go out there. So we're starting with these two: aid and abet, no driver's license or permit, and another: aid and abet, operating motor vehicle contrary to the terms of insurance coverage while acting as a driving instructor. What does it mean to aid and abet in both instances?
Okay. The term aid and abet, it's really an expression used by the legal fraternity and the police. Within our jurisdiction, Section 41 of the Criminal Justice Administration Act states that whosoever shall aid, abet, counsel, or procure the commission of any misdemeanor, whether it be a misdemeanor at common law or by virtue of statute passed or to be passed, shall be liable to be tried, indicted, and punished as a principal offender. So what does this really mean in layman's language? If you should give consent that facilitates the commission of a misdemeanor by another person, then you are guilty of assisting that person of committing the offense. And as such, you are subject to the same punishment.
All right. I think that is pretty clear. And interestingly, in our church group, there was some guidance to remind, especially the ladies, to ensure that we, when we change those handbags, we have the driver's license with us. So I've had to come up with some unique strategies to ensure that I don't forget my driver's license. Because, ladies, do you have any suggestions, Inspector Williams, as to how we might avoid
Well,
getting caught in that?
just try and be alert. You can have your checklist. You check for your keys. For the men, they'll have their wallet. For the women, they'll have their purse or their handbag, and just ensure that all the documents are neatly placed away inside.
All right. Or if you're like me, you'll set up that reminder in the morning at a certain time. So you have that alarm that pops up to tell you that remember to check for your driver's license if you change in the bag. All right. Or you
And
do
of
it
course,
overnight.
sure, that option is available as well.
All right. So, myth or fact? It is an offense for a relative or friend to teach another relative or friend to drive.
Ah, myth or fact?
This one is
Well,
in relation to the authorized driving instructor.
okay. So, according to the provisions of the new Road Traffic Act, I believe we are looking at section 168. It is now required that persons who are learning to drive have the benefit of a certified driver who is approved by the new Island Traffic Authority. If we look at the number of accidents that we have been having over the years, and even the fatal accident stats for last year, which was 488, the authorities found it necessary to make this step because we cannot continue to do business as usual. We must raise the bar, and as such, it is now required that whoever is going to be teaching someone to drive must himself or herself be a certified instructor.
All right. If there are any other questions on that, make note of it. But we do understand the concerns and why it is that we have some of these things in place. All right. So we're moving on to child without child restraint system in motor vehicle. At what age can a child wear a seatbelt versus using a child safety seat?
Okay. When it comes to children, you will find that there will always be a difference between a child of a certain age as against a child of a certain weight. But generally speaking, between the ages of, say, 8 years and under, children of that age and weight are usually required to use what is known as a booster cushion or a booster seat so that they'll be able to be properly secured in the vehicle. And between the ages of 8 and 12, then they can be placed in a
Go ahead. Between the age of 8 and 12, they can be placed in a seatbelt.
right. Are you hearing me?
Yes, hearing you. We're hearing you.
Okay.
All right. So they can be placed in a seatbelt between age 8 and 12.
Well, between 8 and 12.
All right.
From infancy to 8, they are facilitated in what is known as the 5-point harness. Between 8 and 12, they can use the booster seat. And beyond 12, they can be accommodated in the car using the seatbelt. Because what is really needed is for the seatbelt to be across the shoulders, across the chest,
Right.
and not across the thighs, so that they can be properly secured in the vehicle in the event there's an impact that would cause them to be thrown forward.
All right. So we are awaiting the review on that one in terms of the seatbelt. So we will not go any further on that unless you have something else.
Well, actually, the government has made a decision on the matter that as far as it relates to PPV vehicles, the measures have been relaxed. But in the interim, of course, the police were timely advised to exercise discretion, and that we would have been doing.
All right. As it relates to the private vehicles, for those because you have some 7, 8 year old who have really solid body mass. So the police would use their discretion because it's kind of difficult to tell their age unless you're given something otherwise. So would it just be a matter of ensuring that they're securely in the vehicle?
With regards to private motor vehicles, the situation is somewhat different. It is much easier for the private individual to put measures in place than it would for large numbers of persons who take public transportation.
Correct.
But of course, discretion, we can still exercise discretion, but within context.
As it relates to the child seat as opposed to the seatbelt.
Precisely.
Okay, got you. All right. Remember, you can put your questions in the chat, in the comment section. All right. So, all right, Nikki, thank you. Are you telling me that a 7-year-old needs to be put in a car seat?
Remember, there's a fundamental difference between what obtains for a child in terms of just age as against a child in terms of weight. So you will find a 7-year-old whose body mass is really not at that level. So the parents would make a judgment call and treat it accordingly.
All right, Nikki, I trust you're clear on that one, because we do have some 7, 8 years old, and the police would not be able to tell their age based on their structure. And then we do have some tiny 7, 8 years old. So the importance is that we are looking at the safety measures that are to be in place. All right. So we are moving on to disobeying traffic light or stop sign. What do the colors mean on a traffic light? What should we do on each of them?
Well, it is a given that if the light is on green, you know that you can proceed as long as it is safe to do so. Okay? If you are driving along and you observe that the light changes to amber, or what a lot of persons refer to as the yellow, you are now being advised to slow down and to prepare to stop. Be cautious. The red light, of course, you definitely have to stop. When you are executing this particular maneuver, if it is that you are on the amber light just prior to, and you find that you are in the middle of the intersection, likely to cause an obstruction or possible collision, there is no substitute for common sense. You will simply move out of the way cautiously and allow the process to flow.
That's the ideal situation. What we have seen in a number of our town centers, for those that have traffic light, where there's because of the roadways and the volume of vehicles, you find that there's a pile up at the traffic light, and you have a number of vehicles that when it's amber, they're already in the middle of the road, so you have those kind of pile up.
And unfortunately, we have a social problem when it comes to driving. The way people drive within context tells you how neighborly they are. Because if it is that the light is on red and they can actually see across the roadway what is happening, when it is time to move, if the way is not clear, there is really no need to block it up. It's
Indeed,
about being your brother's keeper.
a lot of re-socialization there.
Definitely.
Right. All right. Before the comments roll up, so does that go for public vehicles, say taxi? Nikki, Inspector Williams had mentioned earlier that the government have come to a decision on that. That is relaxed for public passenger vehicles. All right. All right. We take this one before we move on. If you're going to drive, I think this means it's what we dealt with earlier in terms of the driving school.
Okay,
So the recommendation is that you have an approved driving instructor
that's correct.
to teach you to drive. All right. Here's one on the traffic light. I was given a ticket for clearing an intersection on the amber. I was told by the officer that the amber means to stop.
Am I to understand that this motorist was actually in the middle of the intersection?
All right, Kevin, if you can clear that up. For clearing an intersection on the amber. All right.
Why I'm asking this question, forgive me. If it is that the vehicle had not yet reached the stop line, then the motorist would have had ample time to stop at the stop line. If it is that the motorist was in a line of traffic and found himself having crossed the stop line, now being in the middle of the intersection, that motorist more than likely would now be obstructing vehicles traveling in the other direction. I am of the view that the officer wouldn't be penalizing him for exercising sound judgment. Something else must have happened.
Let's take this one and see if it clears it up. Can I be ticketed for driving through the amber light?
If you knowingly drive through the amber light, yes, you can be ticketed. Because really and truly, once you have acknowledged the amber light, you should stop.
Yeah, and that's another cultural practice that needs to stop, because normally what happens is that once the light changes to amber, you see how quickly you can get through.
Exactly. They start to accelerate. Why I must drive faster to go through the light? No.
So we're saying that once the amber comes on, slow down, prepare to stop.
Precisely.
All right. Because we want to stay safe. All right, there are instances where a stop sign is not visible, and some of them knocked down, as one of the one area speaks to. There's actually a penalty for that, but some of them are not there. They're not visible. Remind us as motorists, what is the purpose of a stop sign, and
Okay.
where are they generally placed?
Okay. A stop sign is basically a regulatory sign that informs motorists and pedal cyclists where along a road they should stop to determine whether it is safe to proceed. Yes, that is correct. Stop signs are ideally placed or erected at an unsignalized intersection. That is an intersection that is not governed by a traffic light, or at a wide junction that has a restricted view. It is basically a way of allowing the motorists or road users to exercise a measure of caution. Safety is the key.
Indeed. And I am looking forward to the day where, as motorists, as you said, that courteous approach when you're on the road in the States, when you get to the intersection, is like the driver that gets to the stop light, the stop sign first, not the light, no, the stop sign, is the first to go through. When someone is coming, doesn't speed up, they actually stop and allow. And it's, I don't know how they do it, but it's the vehicle that gets to the intersection first that is allowed to proceed, and the others wait their turn.
Okay, that is called the rule of thumb. So
Yeah,
the motorist that gets to the intersection first and stops has the right of way to go through. Yes,
and stops is the
and
right thing,
stops. Yes.
because even with the new enforcement, the new act, I saw today where several vehicles just go right through the stop sign. So we have to do the right thing so we don't get caught in that. All right. Kevin is seeking to clear up some things here based on his earlier question. The taxi before me stopped in the intersection. I changed lanes to clear the intersection. The officer did not see what took place before and was willing to listen and was not willing to
And was
listen to my reason. All right.
the taxi before me stopped in the intersection. So he was behind this taxi operator, right? And
That's
then
what
he
it's.
changed lanes to go around. So in other words, both vehicles were now in the middle of the intersection, and he had decided to take action to clear the intersection, and that the
Change
officer
lane.
did not and that the officer did not see what had transpired and was not willing to listen. Remember, at this juncture, we have only one side of the story. And remember that there are always three sides: your side, my side, and the truth. At this juncture, I cannot definitively say that what you're saying is not true, but it would be helpful to get another view, another perspective. My apologies, being as you are offended.
All right, Kevin. I trust that you were able to get that cleared up. All right. So we are moving from the stop sign and the traffic light into driving defective motor vehicle. What are some of the defects covered here, and how can we, as motorists, carry out our own checks to ensure that the motor vehicles are roadworthy before we go out there?
Okay, among the things that we need to look at as motorists, we need to look at our tires, ensure that they're not unduly worn, especially where they are worn to the breaker strip. This can be exceedingly dangerous. For persons who are not so au fait with the construct or the mechanics of their vehicle, it is always necessary to get professional help. Ensure that your engine is functioning properly. Ensure that your brake system is functioning adequately. And of course, it helps also to ensure that the accessories to your vehicle, such as your what we call wing mirrors or your right and left rear view mirrors, are fully operational.
Okay, when you say fully operational, so if there's a accident and one of them got knocked off.
Well, yes, because you should see to it that you have your mirrors working properly. If you are unable to see behind you, more than likely you will not be able to navigate or to maneuver on the road safely.
All right. As it relates to brake lights, how can we check for persons who live alone and they are heading out? And how is there any way to check to ensure that those brake lights are working before leaving home?
That is amazing. The things we accomplish when we are alone. It, hel- it helps to be neighborly. Remember what I said earlier on about being your brother's keeper?
Indeed.
It helps to be neighborly. No man is an island.
All right. Because sometimes, which is why sometimes it's difficult. Another security reason, because someone might be genuinely concerned that your lights are out and trying to signal you to let you know that. But with what's happening on the roads now, you can't be too careful. So
And whilst you might be apprehensive, I will say it again, there is no substitute for common sense, but it helps to be neighborly. Even if you live alone, it is inconceivable that you are going to leave your house. You're going to pass all your neighbors. You live in a community, do you not?
not all neighborhoods are like that, Inspector Williams.
E-
People
e-
leaving
e-
out different
e-
times. They don't
e-
pass anyone.
Even so, at some point,
All right,
you,
but we get what you're saying because there's always someone walking along the street or something that you can make your checks to make sure that you're good before you go. All right. Hi, Empress Kim K. Brown. Welcome, Principal Brown. Great to have you. All right. Great greetings to you all those who are connected now. Thank you so much. We have gone through a number of the different areas. So we're moving on to driver failing to cause passenger to wear seatbelt. Should all passengers wear a seatbelt, whether they are traveling in the front or back seat of the car or vehicle?
that is correct. It is the responsibility of the driver to ensure that all passengers are wearing seatbelts. It's a protective measure. Remember now, should the vehicle be involved in a collision, everybody is going to be thrown forward, and it will be the seatbelt that will make the difference.
All
It's a
right.
necessity. Yes,
Right. So not just the person in the passenger seat, but everyone in the vehicle. All right.
that is correct.
All right. Kevin is keeping us on our toes. What if the fuse for my brake light blows whilst driving and I'm stopped by the police? Will I be prosecuted instead of warned?
A lot is going to be, look at it this way. Once you are able to articulate your position to the officer, I am certain that the officer will exercise some amount of discretion. But bear in mind, notwithstanding, the light goes out, the offense would have been created. I just want you to understand that. All right?
Right.
Okay.
Goes back to what you said earlier, the courtesy. Courtesy counts.
It's good to be neighborly.
Brian Douglas, this looks like one of your colleagues. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Beverly Knight Millwood, great to have you. All right, let's see if you're able to take this one, Inspector. How soon after a ticket is paid will it be removed from the system?
Will the ticket be removed from the system?
How long or how soon after? Do you know about that side?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. Why would a ticket be removed from the system if it is
Oh no,
electronic?
how soon after it's paid? How soon after the ticket is paid would it be removed from the system?
Is that the correct question to be asked? Or is it that the person wants to know how soon the data will be updated to reflect that the ticket has been paid and that the matter will not be referred to the judge for a warrant to be prepared? Isn't that what is happening?
I believe that's what is being asked.
I think that is what is happening.
I think that's what is being asked because I can imagine that if it is that there's a ticket there, it's paid, and I'm not sure what's happening now. If the officers out there, if they're able to see what tickets are already there, or that's for the court when they get to the court.
The platform is such that it gives access to the police, it gives access to Tax Administration Jamaica, and it gives access to court to the court administration division. So yes, the tickets can be seen. So it's not about it being removed. It's about it being updated so that each entity knows what is happening.
Right. So it's updated to reflect that the ticket has been paid.
Been
I think
paid.
that's what she's asking.
Precisely.
All right. One moment. Let's clear up this for Nikki. That means they have to ensure that the drivers don't put 4 in the back. Thank you for that one, Nikki, because one person will be left out of seat belt. All right, that's the that is on the driver.
All right. Fair enough.
All right. Driving closer than 50 meters behind an emergency vehicle or driving or stopping within 100 meters of where an emergency vehicle stopped. Talk us through this one.
Okay. So we are looking at a situation where an emergency vehicle is operating on the road, and for safety reasons, it is not advisable that motorists, quote unquote, piggyback and to follow too closely, because this can in fact be dangerous. It can cause accidents and of course which result in injury or death. So it is discouraged. The only time a vehicle is allowed to follow behind an emergency vehicle is if that vehicle is being escorted. With regards to the vehicle remaining 100 meters away from an emergency vehicle, this is in relation to an emergency vehicle that is responding to a case of fire. It is advisable that sufficient space is allowed for emergency personnel to operate without causing congestion, which again might result in injury and other property damage.
All right. So when there are those accidents on the highway and you have the piling up of vehicles stopping to see what's happening and recording videos and taking pictures, that's what we're talking about?
Precisely.
All right. I trust you're all hearing clearly. All right. So there's no room for that. We are to allow the security vehicle space, the officers space to do their job. Driving or attempting to drive motor vehicle across funeral procession. How do we navigate this one with those really long funeral processions that we often encounter on the roads? And then you
Okay.
have some vehicles, taxis that put on their 4-way and join the procession. So it's a never ending procession. How we navigate that one?
Truth be told, it is about exercising a measure of decorum. It is about a measure of respect. There will be some inconvenience, but our societal values are such that it is good, as I've said before, to be neighborly. Give the drivers who are a part of this procession the benefit of the doubt. Allow them to complete the process without cutting the line, so to speak. It keeps everybody safe, believe me.
This is another one that seen in I think it's another Caribbean island, and it was amazing how everyone, even the shops along the street, were closed while the funeral procession was passing. That was something to behold.
Yes.
I trust that Jamaica will get somewhere close to there in short order. All right, we're taking the questions as we go. Terry Wilson is asking, is it illegal to try to change lanes or merge or overtake near a stoplight or intersection? If it is, what is the legal distance from the intersection or stoplight?
Okay. What I suspect is happening here, usually when a motorist gets close to the traffic light, there are traffic symbols on the road. There are some lines there, continuous white lines, keeping each motorist to a lane. Once you get to the traffic light and you see these continuous white lines, you are not supposed to go over them. So yes, it is wrong for you to be changing lanes at that point. You can always change lanes before you get to the continuous white lines at the respective intersections. Because of course, if you change lanes going over the continuous white line, it is possible that you could be responsible for an accident. That's why they are there. Again, safety is the key.
Right. And just to remind you, this is a community safety and security series, and that's what we are looking at. How do we protect ourselves on the road as we uphold the law?
And,
All
and
right.
and just to add, why would you be overtaking at an intersection? You're not supposed to overtake at a junction. The intersection is a junction. You see what I'm saying? So we throw the road code through the window. Eh?
That one, when I saw that question, I remember that one from the road code. All
Yes.
right. Kevin, thank you for keeping us rolling. If after gaining 14 demerit points against my license will be suspended. If I forget my license due to human error and the 14 points are assigned, does that mean automatic suspension?
How am I to interpret this question now? Look at it this way. If after gaining 14 demerit points against your license and it is suspended, when you say that you forgot your license due to human error, I am not sure what that means, because if your license is suspended, you ought not to have it at all. It's supposed to be in the possession of the island traffic authority. Why should you have it that you're going to leave it at home?
Kevin, clear this one up.
Mm-mm.
Is it that you're saying that if the first sentence is the scenario and the second, in terms of the second sentence, is that another scenario in case of you not having your driver's license due to human error, you automatic suspension? What happens? I'm not remembering that particular one in terms of not when you don't have your license, how many points do you lose for that?
No, the question that he's asking, he's saying that he would have gained 14 demerit points and somehow he now forgot the license, possibly at home. Does that mean automatic suspension? I'm saying once you have gained the demerit points, you ought not to have the license at all. First and foremost, the Island Traffic Authority is going to notify you. And if you're stopped by the police, it's going to be pointed out to you. At some point, you're going to find yourself in front of the judge. There is no way you can have a license with 14 demerit points and you somehow forgot it at home.
Okay, I hope we're getting that clear. But outside of that, though, Inspector Williams,
Yes.
how many points do you lose for not having your license while driving? I'm not remembering that one.
The question though is I would have to recheck that.
Okay. All right. Not a problem. Ah, Terry's asking one in relation to another one of them. What is the grace period for the respective expired car documents?
The respective grace period.
So your
There,
fitness and registration, I would
no
assume.
man, the grace period is just for the registration certificate,
Registration certificate.
not for the fitness.
So your
It's
fitness.
it's
So clarify that, inspectors, in
the,
terms of the documents. What is required for each of those?
well, as it relates to the registration certificate, you still have a month of grace.
Right.
But as it relates to the certificate of fitness, no, there is no period of grace for that. If it's out, it's out. You will be
Okay.
treated as such. And the same thing with your insurance.
Insurance. All right.
There is no period of grace with that either.
Terry, viewers all, I trust we got that. So the only grace that is allowed is for the registration. Outside of that, no. Kevin, he's asked clarifying. I'm asking that if I forgot my driver's license, will 14 points be assigned and my license automatically suspended? Still not getting that, Kevin.
All right, let me see what he's getting at. Is it that he left the house, everything was okay? Let us say that he had not gotten 14 demerit points prior to. He just somehow forgot his license this morning.
I think that's what he's saying now. That
Okay.
he forgot his license. It's the question I was asking in terms of how many points. So he's asking if 14 points demerit points will be assigned for not having his driver's license.
For not having his driver's license,
And,
by just simply forgetting it.
right. If anyone is able to check quickly for us on that one, so we can clear that up as to the demerit points for not having your driver's license, that would be really helpful. We'll get back to that, Kevin. I will retake this one before we move on. Terry, if I am at a police spot check and the electronic database shows that I have an outstanding ticket, which I already paid, what recourse do I have?
Okay. The question that is going to be asked is, do you have a receipt? Is it a physical receipt or do you have it as an electronic copy? There would have to be some evidence of the payment. Because remember, under the Electronic Transactions Act that was passed in 2007, an electronic copy of the document will suffice.
Awesome. I usually ensure I get an electronic copy, even if it's a physical one. So, Terry, we
Yes.
might want to practice that to get a copy so we carry it around because we're not leaving the phones. So, at least we'll be able to show that evidence that we have already paid. All right, which is the same for the driver's license. When you do the renewal, it's more than likely it's an electronic copy, unless you have printed the electronic copy to carry with you. All right. Driving or operating a motor vehicle while using electronic communication device. No texting while driving. That is absolutely clear. But are motorists allowed to send and receive calls using Bluetooth devices while driving or operating a motor vehicle?
Well, as long as your device is hands-free, you will not have a problem. Hands-free.
All right. So it's not that the officer on duty see me talking and he pulls me over to see if I'm all right.
Well, we're in a technological age. It is expected that people will have conversations. What we are looking for is that you will be compliant, that you will not be fumbling with the phone whilst at the same time trying to operate the vehicle. That's a recipe for disaster.
So, in essence, all these acts were put in place to safeguard us as road users, whether we're behind the wheel or we are using the road in any way, shape, or form, whether I'm walking along the street, it's there to protect us. So it's right. It's just that
That is so.
there are different penalties depending on the infractions.
That's correct.
All right. Hi, Ava. Thank you for tuning in as always. And the group over there in Longville Park, always a pleasure to have you here. And remember, if there are any areas that we have not covered as yet and you want clarification on it, now is the time for that. We're taking the questions as we go along. We have one more here. Failing to allow vehicle to be overtaken. Does this mean that those motorists who overtake the long line of traffic are to be allowed to squeeze in?
No, that's not what is happening.
Talk to us.
That's not what is happening. Okay. It is an offense for a motorist not to allow himself or herself to be overtaken because this can lead to an accident. But remember now, it is also an offense for the motorist who wants to overtake. Once you start the process, it should only be done because the way is clear and you are able to safely get back into the line of traffic. You shouldn't be trying to fighting your way back in or squeezing back in. That's really careless driving. And within context, if you were speeding, it could be considered to be dangerous driving. So no, you have an obligation just as well if you're overtaking.
All right. I trust that the drivers are hearing that, and it's not just the taxi operators, it's private motor vehicles as well. Right. So the undertaking and all of that, we are all in a hurry, but we gotta leave out early, as Neville Bell would say. If you leave late, you're done late already. So it's better,
Precisely.
right? You're done late already.
Precisely.
So just take it easy on the road, save your life or and those around you. All right. Is there any other area that you need clarification on? Now is the time to ask your question, get the clarification that you need. So we you don't go out there and we don't want to be arguing with any of the police officers when you get out there. Seek the clarifications from now. So when you get out there while the police officers are doing their job, can make it easier for all of us as road users. All right. So ask your questions now. But while we are waiting on any other question, are there any additional tips, road safety tips that you want to leave with us for this
Yes.
segment? All right.
You know,
Go right ahead.
I just want our viewers to understand road safety in its simplest form speaks to measures and methods geared towards mitigating the risk of traffic accidents and thus to facilitate people getting to their intended destination alive and injury free in spite of adverse and potentially adverse circumstances. Okay? All things being equal, we want we want for we want for all road users to understand that the stringent measures that have been put in place is to really to save lives. We have to become more conscious. Again, we need to be our brother's keeper.
Yes, I was muted. That seemed to be
Yes,
the central message
yes,
here. Be your brother's keeper. All right. Here's Kevin. Kevin, thank you so much for tuning in. Why are only vehicles with the blue lights being prosecuted? What about other colored lights?
Well, firstly, it is not only vehicle with blue lights, but what we have observed is that we have more blue light vehicles than other color light vehicles. That's just the problem. Persons are drawn to the blue light possibly because it is used by police officers predominantly.
All right. So that particular one speaks to, because sometimes unsuspecting motorists might think that it's actually a police officer when it's oh,
Exactly.
all right. Kevin, I trust you and others are understanding that it's for our
Yes.
own safety. All right. Does the police accept photocopies of car documents?
Well, yes. This new legislation now has made it abundantly clear that copy documents can in fact be accepted.
Right. So whether the physical copy or the electronic copy, correct?
Both actually. Again, going back to the Electronic Transaction Act that was passed in 2007. But it's better to have a physical copy that is signed by a justice of the peace.
Okay.
It's not just to photocopy a document and say you're going to hand it to the police. It's best that you
Oh,
get it signed by a justice of the peace.
all right. All right. So it's not just a photocopy, Terry. I trust we got that clear. It must be okay, notarized by a justice of the peace. All right. So I need to ask my colleague, justice of the peace, to to sign mine. Let's see what we have here. Is the new traffic act not understanding this question, Carl? The new traffic act goes for all motorists. They That's usually what obtains with the law. Are you understanding, Inspector?
As far as I'm aware, the law goes for every citizen of Jamaica and every visitor who visits Jamaica.
All right. Once you're a motorist, you're using the road. Yes, Kim K, I noticed that you indicated that it was answered earlier, but just in case anyone else missed it, yes, the photocopied documents are to be signed by a justice of the peace. I tell you, Kevin is sharp like a razor. Section 24, operating motor vehicle without driver's license permit, $40,000, 14 demerit points. Okay, I figured that's where your question was coming
All
from.
right.
So, yes.
All right. Here's an extreme situation. This is not the same as you leaving your driver's license at home. This is here for the person who, let us say that he racked up some points and he realized that he doesn't want to be scrutinized on the street whilst driving. He or she might choose to leave the driver's license because of what would have happened before. No. Should you be stopped by the police and the system is checked and it is found that you are in the red, then clearly this is for you. Yes? Yes.
All right. So if, as he indicated earlier, it's just a matter of human error and it was left at home, then that's
This one is more than human error, because it goes for persons too who decide to drive without a driver's license as well.
that would have been my next question,
Yes, man.
because that would be another group, because there are drivers out there who have been driving for years, I understand, without a driver's license.
That is correct.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much. I need to give you a job as my admin assistant. Thank you so much for the questions. We have less than 5 minutes to wrap. So if there are any quick ones that you want to put in, now is the time to get it in. But let me, is there any final word from your Inspector Williams before we wrap?
Final word. So last year, as I've said before, we lost 488 persons. It is important to point out that 148 of those fatalities was a direct result of speeding. That's 30% of the fatalities on the road last year was for speeding. And if we take a close look at the current legislation, we recognize that there are no three categories of speeding to mitigate against a reoccurrence of this. We have speeding within the normal areas, zones, highways, etc. And then we have what is known as speeding within the school safety zones. So if you're caught speeding within the school safety zones, you are going to pay for that. Trust me. And if you're caught speeding within the construction zones, again, you're going to pay for that. In a worst case scenario, if you're caught speeding in a school safety zone or a construction zone, worst case scenario, you can find yourself being penalized and losing your driver's license for 6 months. At some point, we have to put a stop to the carnage. And this is where it starts. Okay? Speeding is the leading cause of fatalities on our road. Treating with it is non-negotiable. I thank you for your compliance in advance.
Indeed. And Kevin is pushing it. He's putting in one more for that person who wants to ask and afraid to ask. Can I travel with a picture of my license as proof that I have a valid license and provide physical license within 24 hours?
All right, here we go again. There is a requirement that you should carry your driver's license at all times. It is not that we will not exercise discretion. What we do not want is for a person to believe that all you need to do is to take a picture of a license and put it on your phone. Remember, we're in a technological age. Photoshop is alive. Yes? Please walk with your driver's license. Okay? Help the police to serve you better.
Amen. Carl has it in. Is police allowed to break the one way?
Yes, the police is allowed to break the one way once we are using the flashing light on the siren. It is called prior rites of passage.
All right, Carl? Just that's clearly understood. All right. This is where I thank you again, Inspector Williams, for making the time to be here to answer our questions. And I trust that our viewers who are live here with us, who are watching the replay, will be able to get some clarity on these areas that we have covered. And as always, you can always feel free to reach out to seek clarification from your police team. Let me thank again ACP Gary McKenzie, the team at PSTEB, as well as Assistant ACP Glenford Miller from Area 3 and his team there for making this possible. This has been another episode of the Community Safety and Security series. We do this every second Thursday of the month, where we seek to highlight and different areas of what happens in the police force so that we can be better informed citizens, so we can, as Inspector Williams says, help the police to help us keep safe. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we're going to be looking at our new series, which is EduBiz, looking at some other area of business. We're going to be focusing on health next week, so you want to tune in for that. Remember to subscribe, set the notification, and share so others can. You can share this live because it will be there. Brian B, somebody shouting out here. And Kevin, thanking you.
Thank you. Thank you too, Kevin.
All right. You all continue to stay safe out there on the road and in your homes. Inspector, thanks again. Have a fantastic rest of the evening and hoping to see you again in this space for
Th- thank,
another episode. Have
thank
a
you for
good
having
one.
me.
Pleasure.
Okay.